Around 1600 BCE, the Qin Dynasty seized power, and for the first time in the vast, wind-scoured plains of ancient China, something that deserves to be called civilization flickered to life. The Qing were masters of bronze, and not just competent ones. They were virtuosos. From copper and tin, they forged objects so breathtaking that even today, 3,600 years later, they stop you cold. Their ritual bronze vessels, enormous, gleaming, carved with coiling dragons and terrifying spirit masks, were not merely containers. They were messages, letters addressed to gods. But the Qing's greatest gift to history was not bronze. It was writing. The oracle bones, turtle shells and ox shoulder blades, inscribed with strange angular marks, are the oldest known Chinese writing ever found. Court diviners would hold these bones over fire until they cracked, then read the fracture patterns like a divine telegram. Afterward, they carved both the question and the answer into the bone itself, preserving a conversation between humanity and heaven across the millennia. Will the hunt succeed? Will the rains come? Will the enemy be crushed? These whispered questions, scratched into bone by men dead 3.5 millennia ago, are a window into a living world that breathes across time. The Qing built their capital at Yin, near modern Anyang, a city that gazed over the plains from behind earthen walls with a king's cold dignity. The Qing kings saw themselves as intermediaries between the heavens and the earth. When a king died, hundreds followed him into the grave. Servants, soldiers, horses. This was a civilization that was hierarchical, brutal, and ferociously alive. Around 1046 BCE, a Western tribe called the Zhou swept the Qing from power. They justified their conquest with a concept that would echo through Chinese political philosophy for millennia: the mandate of heaven, or Tianming. The idea was elegant in its simplicity. Heaven grants the right to rule to just rulers and takes it away from tyrants. Every revolution, every dynasty's fall, every coup would be narrated through this same lens. The old rulers lost the mandate. The new rulers received it. The Zhou dynasty split into two halves. In the second half, the Zhou's central power crumbled, and China became a blood-soaked chessboard of warring states. Armies marched, cities burned, lords schemed, peasants starved. And yet, out of all this chaos, something extraordinary happened. The human mind, cornered by catastrophe, began asking the most dangerous questions of all. How should we live? What makes a society just? What is the proper relationship between the ruler and the ruled? The answers that came back were astonishing in their variety. Confucius, known to the Chinese as Confuzi, was born in 551 BCE, the son of a minor, impoverished noble family. He was not a warrior. He was not a king. He was a teacher with a notebook and a burning conviction that the world could be fixed, not by swords, but by virtue. A good society, he argued, is one where each person knows their role and performs it with sincerity and love. Father must truly be a father. Son must truly be a son. Ruler must truly be a ruler. This apparent simplicity concealed oceanic depth. His words, collected by his students into a slim volume called the Analects, would shape the lives of hundreds of millions of people for the next 2,500 years. While Confucius was teaching, Laozi was founding Taoism, a philosophy that whispered, "Stop fighting the current. Flow with the natural order of existence, and you will find peace." Mozi championed universal love. Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War. Legalists argued that only strict law could hold civilization together. This explosion of competing ideas, called the 100 Schools of Thought, planted the deep roots of Chinese culture. Whatever came afterward, however many wars were fought and dynasties toppled, these roots held. Among all the warriors and philosophers, one man decided he was done with competition. Ying Zheng, the king of Qin, was not a man given to patience or mercy. Starting in 230 BCE, he methodically destroyed his rivals, one state at a time, with the cold precision of a man clearing a chessboard. In 221 BCE, when the last state fell, he invented a new title for himself, one that had never existed before. He called himself Huangdi, Emperor, First Emperor, Qin Shi Huangdi. In 11 furious years of rule, this one man remade China so completely that the echoes still reach us today. He created a centralized administrative system, dividing the country into provinces governed by appointed officials, not hereditary nobles who might grow ambitious. He standardized the written script so that a man from the far north and a man from the deep south could read the same document. He standardized weights, measures, coinage, and even, in a detail that reveals the obsessive precision of his mind, the axle widths of carts so that all roads wore the same ruts. And then there was the wall. Shi Huangdi ordered the scattered walls of the northern frontier to be connected into one vast barrier against the nomadic tribes of the steppe. Hundreds of thousands of laborers worked on it. Tens of thousands died. Legend says their bodies were buried within the wall itself, making it the longest graveyard on Earth. What tourists photograph today as the Great Wall is largely a later construction, but the idea, the sheer audacity of it, was his. Shi Huangdi was also terrified of dying. He sent thousands of searchers out to find the elixir of immortality. He burned books to control thought. He buried scholars alive for disagreeing with him. And yet when death came for him anyway, in 210 BCE, it revealed the most astonishing surprise of all. Hidden beneath a Chinese farmer's field near Xi'an, sealed for over 2,000 years, lay his final bodyguard, an army of 7,000 terracotta soldiers, each face unique, standing in perfect formation for eternity. They were discovered in 1974 by a farmer digging a well, one of the greatest archaeological finds in human history. After the first emperor's death, his empire collapsed within 3 years. From the civil war that followed rose an unlikely victor, Liu Bang, a village constable, a man of the earth. No philosopher, no aristocrat, just a rough-spoken man who could make ordinary people feel he understood them. In 206 BCE, Liu Bang founded the Han Dynasty, naming himself Emperor Gaozu. The Han lasted 400 years and cut so deeply into the Chinese soul that to this day the Chinese people call themselves the Han. It was under the Han that Confucianism became the official ideology of the state. More startlingly, the Han invented what may be the most radical administrative innovation in the history of governance, the civil service examination. For the first time anywhere in the world, a man born in a mud hut could, through sheer learning, sheer brilliance, sheer tenacity, rise to the highest levels of government. Birth became less important than brains. The exam was grueling, often heartbreaking, but it cracked open the ceiling of feudal hierarchy. The Han also looked outward. Emperor Wu, 141 to 87 BCE, sent his armies north against the fearsome Xiongnu nomads and dispatched a general named Zhang Qian westward on a mission to find allies. Zhang Qian was captured by the Xiongnu and held for 10 years. When he finally escaped and reached Central Asia, he encountered people that Chinese civilization had never known existed. Bactrians, Parthians, merchants trading in languages no Chinese ear had ever heard. He returned home with something more valuable than any military alliance: the knowledge of a road. The Silk Road was born. It was not one road. It was a shimmering web of routes connecting China to Central Asia, Persia, India, and eventually Rome. Silk flowed west. Gold, glass, incense, and ideas flowed east. For centuries, it was the circulatory system of the ancient world. After the Han, China shattered. 3 kingdoms, 16 kingdoms, northern dynasties, southern dynasties. The names changed. The wars did not. And yet, even in this age of fracture, something quietly miraculous was happening. Buddhism arrived from India, slipping into China along the Silk Road, carried by monks in saffron robes. A philosophy that said suffering is the nature of existence and liberation is possible, found a ready audience among people who knew suffering intimately. Buddhism fused with Taoism and produced something China-born and unique, a new way of understanding the mind, the cosmos, and the space between breaths. The Sui dynasty stitched the fragments back together in 581 CE, but lasted only a generation. The Grand Canal, an engineering feat that connected the Yellow River to the Yangtze, linking north and south, was built at catastrophic human cost. The Sui fell in revolts, exhausted by its own ambitions. But from its ashes rose one of the most glorious chapters in China's long story. The Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, was China's golden age, and its capital Chang'an, modern Xi'an, was the greatest city on earth, home to over 1 million people. Walk its boulevards and you might pass an Arab merchant, a Persian musician, a Korean diplomat, a Japanese monk, all brushing shoulders in the same afternoon. Chang'an was the New York of the ancient world, loud, ambitious, irresistible, and utterly convinced of its own importance. The Tang was the age of Chinese poetry. Li Bai, drunken, brilliant, ecstatic, wrote lines that became part of the Chinese bloodstream, memorized by school children for 13 centuries. Du Fu, his contemporary, wrote of war's cruelties and the quiet grief of ordinary people with such aching tenderness that generations have wept reading him. Over 50,000 Tang poems survive. Each is a small door into a vanished world. Emperor Taizong, perhaps the finest ruler in Chinese history, once said, "The people are water and the king is a boat. Water can carry the boat, and water can sink it." It was a warning to himself, and a warning his successors consistently ignored. The Tang also produced something China had never seen before and would never see again. Wu Zetian, the only woman in Chinese history to rule as emperor in her own name. She had been a concubine. She clawed her way to the throne through intelligence, ruthlessness, and an absolutely steel-cold understanding of power. Traditional historians, all men, condemned her without mercy. But the record shows that under Wu Zetian, China expanded, the civil service flourished, and the state ran with terrifying efficiency. History is written by the survivors, and she survived longer than most. When the Tang collapsed, China again fragmented. But when the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279, assembled the pieces, it created something remarkable. Militarily, the Song were weak, They lost great swaths of northern territory to nomadic empires and never recovered them. But intellectually and economically, the Song were incandescent. It was during the Song that three inventions matured that would, centuries later, remake the entire planet: paper, printing, and gunpowder. The magnetic compass for navigation was refined. Bixing invented movable type printing 400 years before Gutenberg, making books accessible to ordinary people for the first time. Literacy climbed, ideas spread, libraries overflowed with customers. Most astonishingly, the Song invented paper money. For the first time in human history, a government issued banknotes, a promise written on paper that was worth the same as gold. The world's first stock market appeared. China's economy became, by an enormous margin, the largest and most sophisticated on Earth. But a shadow was gathering on the steppe, one that no invention could stop: Genghis Khan. The name alone is a thunderclap. Born in the pitiless grasslands of Mongolia, orphaned young, enslaved, betrayed, he rose, fell, rose again, and rose again, until he had forged every Mongol tribe into a single, terrifying weapon. The war against China lasted decades. The Chinese fought with everything they had: their walls, their rivers, their sheer numbers. The Mongols adapted. They learned siege warfare from Chinese engineers. They simply did not stop. Kublai Khan, Genghis's grandson, declared the Qin Dynasty in 1271. And China, for the first time since the Qin, was unified under a single foreign master. Kublai abolished the civil service exams. The Mongols viewed Chinese culture with undisguised contempt. And yet, paradoxically, the Silk Road reached its brilliant apex under Mongol rule. Marco Polo arrived at Kublai's court and found Khanbalik, modern Beijing, a city so staggering in its scale and sophistication that when he wrote about it, Europeans refused to believe him. Marble palaces, straight boulevards, efficient postal roads, paper money, a population Europe couldn't dream of. The Yuan fell in 1368 to Zhu Yunzhang, a man who had begged for food as a child and taken shelter in a Buddhist monastery. He founded the Ming Dynasty and proved once again that in China, the mandate of heaven belongs to whoever is strong enough to take it. The Ming rebuilt the Great Wall in fired brick, the magnificent structure tourists photograph today. They built the Forbidden City, 900 rooms, 90 hectares, home to 24 emperors across 5 centuries. And they launched the most audacious maritime expedition in history. Zheng He was a Muslim eunuch who rose to become the most powerful admiral China ever produced. Between 1405 and 1433, he led 7 voyages into the Indian Ocean with a fleet so vast it beggars imagination. Ships 4 to 5 times the size of Columbus's caravels. He reached Southeast Asia, India, Arabia, and the east coast of Africa. He brought giraffes to the Chinese court. He rewrote the map. If those voyages had continued, the history of European colonialism might have been written very differently. But after Zheng He's death, a faction at court shut the program down, burned the records, and turned China's face away from the sea. It was one of history's great what-ifs, frozen in ash. In 1644, the Manchu from the northeast seized Beijing and founded the Qing Dynasty. Unlike the Mongols, the Manchu were subtle. They adopted Chinese culture gradually, even as they forced Chinese men to shave the front of their heads and wear a Manchu queue, a ponytail that became, in martial arts films, an icon of ancient China, but was originally the mark of conquest. At its peak under Emperor Qianlong, 1736 to 1796, the Qing Empire was one of the largest in the world. Tibet, Mongolia, Xinjiang, Taiwan, all flew the yellow dragon flag. China's population reached 300 million. No nation on earth was richer or more populous. Then Britain arrived with something far deadlier than an army: opium. The British East India Company flooded China with Indian-grown opium, creating millions of addicts and draining China's silver reserves in reverse. When the Qing tried to stop it, Britain declared war. The First Opium War, 1839 to 1842, ended in China's humiliation. The Treaty of Nanking handed Hong Kong to Britain and forced China to open her ports. France, America, Russia, and Japan lined up behind Britain, each demanding their share of the wounded giant. The disasters compounded. The Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864, sparked by a man who believed he was Jesus Christ's younger brother, became the bloodiest civil war in history, killing between 30 and 50 million people. The Boxer Uprising of 1900 ended with 8 foreign armies occupying Beijing and the Empress Dowager Cixi fleeing the palace in peasant disguise. In 1911, revolution finally ended 2,000 years of imperial rule. The last emperor, Puyi, was 6 years old when he was lifted off the dragon throne. The republic that replaced the empire was a chaos of competing warlords, Japanese invasion, and ideological civil war. The Nanjing Massacre of 1937 to 1938, in which Japanese forces killed an estimated 300,000 Chinese civilians in a matter of weeks, remains one of the darkest chapters in modern history, a wound that still bleeds in Chinese memory. 2 forces battled for China's future: the nationalist Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek and the Chinese Communist Party under Mao Zedong. They briefly united against Japan. After Japan's defeat in 1945, they resumed their war. By 1949, Mao had won. October 1st, 1949, Tiananmen Square. Mao Zedong, a man who had survived the Long March, a 6,000-mile fighting retreat through mountains and swamps, stood atop the Gate of Heavenly Peace and announced to an enormous, roaring crowd, "The Chinese people have stood up." The People's Republic of China was born, and Mao immediately set about remaking it, with consequences both magnificent and monstrous. Land was redistributed, industries were nationalized, and then came the disasters. The Great Leap Forward, 1958 to 1962, was a campaign to industrialize China in an instant, dragging farmers from fields to crude backyard steel furnaces. The result was the Great Chinese Famine. Between 15 and 45 million deaths, the deadliest famine in human history. Then came the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976. Mao, seeking to reassert his political dominance, unleashed the Red Guards, young, fanatical, terrifyingly certain of their righteousness, upon Chinese society. Teachers were humiliated and beaten. Scholars were sent to labor camps. Ancient temples were ransacked. Artworks were burned. Schools closed for a decade. China lost a generation. Mao died in 1976. After a brutal power struggle, a small, tough, twice-purged politician named Deng Xiaoping emerged on top. Deng was a pragmatist in a country that had been ruled by zealots. He is famously, though perhaps apocryphally, associated with the line, "It doesn't matter if the cat is black or white, so long as it catches mice." Deng launched economic reforms that detonated like a slow-burning bomb. Special economic zones were created, where foreign investment was welcomed and market forces allowed to operate. Prices were freed. Farmers were permitted to sell surplus crops on the open market. State enterprises were restructured. The changes rolled out in waves, and China's economy began to grow at a speed the world had never seen. But when students gathered in Tiananmen Square in 1989, demanding political freedom to match the economic liberalization, Deng chose the tank over the ballot. June 4th, 1989, is one of the darkest dates in modern Chinese history. The image of a single man standing in the path of a column of tanks, arms spread, shopping bags in hand, became one of the most iconic photographs of the 20th century. Deng had made his choice. Economic freedom, yes. Political freedom, no. That bargain has been the operating model of the Chinese state ever since. In the decades after Deng, China grew at a pace that strained every metaphor. Hundreds of millions of people lifted themselves out of poverty, the largest reduction in human poverty in history achieved in a single lifetime. Farms became factories, villages became cities, cities became mega-cities with skylines that made Manhattan look modest. China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001. The 2008 Beijing Olympics announced to the world with unmistakable swagger that China was back. By 2010, China had surpassed Japan to become the world's second largest economy. Xi Jinping, who took power in 2013, has pushed further still. The Belt and Road Initiative, a modern Silk Road of Chinese investment, stretches across Asia, Africa, and Europe. The military has been modernized with quiet ferocity. Digital technology has become a tool of social management, so sophisticated it would have stunned Orwell. And the Constitution has been changed to allow Xi to remain in power indefinitely. China and America now face each other across a gulf of competition that touches everything. Taiwan, the South China Sea, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, supply chains, and the deep grammar of the future. China is no longer the world's cheap factory. It intends to lead the world in the technologies that define the next century. Huawei, Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu. These are not merely corporations. They are declarations of ambition. 5,000 years of history cannot be contained in any single document. These pages have traced only the main current of an incomprehensibly vast river. But step back and look, and certain things remain constant across all those millennia. First, resilience so profound it borders on the supernatural. China has been invaded, conquered, shattered, starved, and humiliated. And every single time it has risen. The Mongols conquered China and became Chinese. The Manchu conquered China and became Chinese. This gravitational pull of culture, this capacity to absorb its conquerors, is perhaps the most extraordinary quality any civilization has ever possessed. Second, the permanent tension between order and freedom. The great question of Chinese history, how much power should the state hold over the individual, remains unanswered and unanswering. It hums beneath every policy, every protest, every silence. Third, the weight of memory. The Chinese are historically conscious in a way that has no parallel in the West. The century of humiliation, from the Opium Wars to 1949, is not ancient history in Beijing. It is an open wound. When Chinese leaders speak of the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation, they are not delivering a campaign slogan. They are invoking a memory of loss and a hunger for restoration that runs as deep as the Yellow River. The dragon born on the banks of those ancient rivers 3,000 years before the Common Era, is still breathing. In a world of uncertainty, one thing seems clear. The story of China is not finished. The next chapters are being written now, in laboratories and server farms, in contested islands and diplomatic chambers, in the dreams of 1.5 billion people who know with absolute certainty that they belong to the oldest living civilization on Earth. And those chapters, whatever they bring, will be every bit as astonishing as everything that came before.